Okay. Back again doing some UGit stuff. So UGit is a MicroPython module that I created quite a while ago, based off of a Hackaday article. So it's kind of hilarious because Hackaday had this article saying that hey, over-the-air updates is available for Arduino. So if a GitHub repository changes, then that this module or sorry this Arduino whatever you call Arduino stuff sorry but it would actually update the code on the microcontroller, but there wasn't one for MicroPython. Someone said that in the comments, and I said, well, I'll do that. So I literally just typed in, I'll create the MicroPython library that does over-the-air updates with GitHub. So I told my friend Harry that I bet you it would only take me 2 hours. Well, it ended up taking me around 23 to 32 hours. 241 lines of code later, I had my update, and it took 3 days. It took 3 days to write, and they actually talked about me in their podcast on Hackaday, which was kind of hilarious. They used the term nerd snipe. I had never heard that before, but yeah. So there's been a couple of updates. One of those being um, that I was having a problem. So UGit will look at the repository and pull the tree from the GitHub repository, and it will look at the internal file structure, and it says, hey, what is different? Is there something inside of the internal file structure that isn't on the GitHub update? The GitHub, sorry, repository. So I was trying to do the hash function to see, to use that to determine if the file has been modified or not. Because I'm just using the GitHub API pretty much through URLs. So you can interact with GitHub by just sending the URL requests. And that's pretty much what we're doing. There's a couple of things that I probably need to solve. So I have went ahead and yes, made my first change. Right now I'm committing to the dev branch, and that is to add the backup, because I was automatically deleting the backup that UGit creates. Since UGit will technically rewrite every file on the board, this can be dangerous because microcontrollers, the memory usually is only rated for so many read writes. But again, that is the nature of anything. Like, you can only read and write information to mediums so many amounts of time before they physically or mechanically break. Um, so it's something to keep in mind. But what's also really difficult about this is that you have to have an environment which you have Wi-Fi enabled, because you're using the internet in this microcontroller. You also have to have the knowledge about the REPL environment, because when I'm coding this MicroPython module, I have to do so knowing that there's a couple of caveats. There's some things that are inherently flawed with the environment in which I'm interacting with the microcontroller, right? It's not perfect. So snagging, when I'm in the REPL environment, sometimes there seems to be a memory persistence. And yeah, I was going to use gestures somehow magically to let you know that, but maybe I will pull something up in Illustrator. Okay, so in Illustrator, we have the microcontroller. And it has pretty much the expressive chip on it somewhere, because this is the dev board. So let's just say that's the expressive chip, and I guess let's say that's the memory module. So maybe I should actually put them. There we go. So we'll put expressive chip, ESP32S2, and this is going to be our memory module. So if we go to the ESP32S2 Mini Wemos, if we go to the website from Wemos, and Wemos, I believe, I don't know exactly how this this works, but Wemos, I believe, made this dev board. So this is what we're looking at. We can look at the CircuitPython, Micropython schematic is what we're looking for. Perfect. So if we look at the schematic, this is interesting. I'm so used to Adobe products. If we look at the schematic, we should see pins 27. All right, so there we go. So these right here should be tied to the memory module that's on this dev board. And it's easier to see on my website, openmuscle.org. I can't remember where I pulled these pins from, but this information that I get, it also has the pin description table. Yeah, it looks like Espressive products. Yeah. That should be in the data sheet. Yeah. It is, the pinout is here. There we go. So we should see 27. Yeah, I don't know. It took me a long time to do this, but so I did the work for you. So you can trust me or not trust me, it doesn't matter. You can redo the work. But I spent a lot of time matching up everything from the ESP32S2 documentation for the Wemos board to on this site, so on openmuscle.org. So you can see that these pins are crossed out 32, 31, 30, 29, and 28. And that's because they're used for the embedded flash. So it's the embedded flash. Embedded flash. I believe it's SPI connection. And it might not be that piece of silicon right there or integrated circuit. It could be something else. But the Espressive chip itself, if we look at the information on how it is structured, they have a good diagram up here. So yeah, this little guy here. So here's the module. We have the core system, which is a single core 32-bit LX7 microprocessor. It has cache, it has SRAM, JTAG, ROM, right? So then it also has this wireless MAC and baseband, different parts, and flash encryption. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. I don't pretend to understand everything, but this is laying out pretty much the topology of the microcontroller. And I do believe it's my inclination that a couple of times the SSID of Wi-Fi that you're logging into on the ESP32 S2 board, somehow some of the memory is staying somewhere there that logs in. So there's memory persistence. So when I'm developing a MicroPython module, I have different boards that I can mess with, like a ESP32C3, S2, 8266, any Wi-Fi connected Espressive dev board. I try to get my hands on if they're inexpensive. So sometimes in order to accurately make sure that this will work for the end user, you have to kind of I try to throw different things at the development process to make sure that what I'm seeing is not, here, let me give you an example. So I messed up the network module here. So in here, in UGet, there is a Wi-Fi connect function. So this tries to connect via the variables at the very top. So the user enters in these variables like your SSID, your password, what the user on GitHub is, the repository, the token if it's a private repository, and the default branch. There's more, but if I were to program this on the dev branch and mess up the network, it's possible that I'll reset the board, run the new code, when in fact I've broken the network functionality of the module, and it will run just fine for me all the way to the point where I push it onto GitHub, and if someone else tries to run it, the network connection will break. And that's because there is some type of memory persistence that I don't know how to find out where it is. So I've written a few caveats, like if you're in a REPL environment, for some reason the REPL environment, which we're using Thani to do this, which is our interactive development environment. It's also it's how we're connected and reading the information from the board and writing information to the board. And it also, I want to say, emulates MicroPython. This REPL environment seems to be a hybrid of actually running the commands on the microcontroller or emulating them. And so with your interaction with the Thani or with UPyCraft, which used to be my favorite, sometimes it seems that impossible things happen. Like I rewrite the value of a variable, I reboot the board, I wipe the board completely, load it back up, but I still have Thani running. And I connect the board, and somehow that variable exists in its local memory. So yeah. So I don't think that it's too terribly bad. MicroPython is amazing just because I love it. I'm biased. I'm completely biased, so don't listen to me. So that's why I'm spending my time today working on this. This module is also going to be used for OpenMuscle. So I wrote UGet because I needed a way for the MicroPython boards. And the reason I'm using MicroPython is because a lot of machine learning is done in Python. I think MicroPython is very easy. It can be extremely fast when you need it to be. It has built-in things like C types. It has asynchronous functionality that you can do. So you can pretty much do anything with MicroPython that you can do with a normal board, but you get so many benefits, in my opinion. Like you could literally see the code in plain text. It exists in a semi-compiled state. Not sure how to state that. It's not compiled. I'm not smart enough to talk about that region, but its many positives have lead me to enjoy it. It's thoroughly enjoying process to program in MicroPython, to use MicroPython on microcontrollers. And if there are any downsides, I probably don't see them because I have rose-tinted glasses on. So that's a lot of stuff to segue into the main thing I'm trying to solve. So I was not using the hash values. I'm storing the hash values, but I need to update UGet to actually compute the hash internally and match that with the hash that's found on the GitHub repository. So I'm actually using the file UGet and I've ran it. And that's different than if I was just in boot.py and I ran boot.py. Because I don't even know the proper word for it, but the local variables or the local objects are loaded, and I can actually play around with them in this environment inside of the UGet REPL. I guess that's the term for it. So if I just hit play on this, sweet. So I don't need to import anything. So if I type in dir and pull all, what does it say? Yeah, it says it is something. It tells me, how to use it. Oh, and I think it's actually pulling all. Well, yeah, it looks like it's running that, which is kind of hilarious. Okay, good. So this is everything that's loaded right now. Sweet. So what we're going to do is, well, I can show you the 4 quadrants. Now I'm going to grab Thani from this. Yes. There we go. Just so it's a little bit bigger than normal. So I want to not pull all. I want to just see the tree. So build internal tree. Yeah. Build internal tree. Okay, so it should have built the internal tree. So the internal tree exists, the files. For my test, I've subfolders to make sure that this module will work with subfolders and not. I'm using the repository UGet underscore test. And it successfully, right now, I'm just building the internal tree. So these are all the files that exist on this board, and it also has their hash values. So this is an array of its location or name, which is the same thing, and the byte value of the hash. And let me see how the hash, yeah, we're just doing the SHA-1. Okay. And I need to pull up the repository because someone commented on one of the issues that there was a way. Oh yeah, the private repository. Onboard hash function. Someone solved this. Someone did solve it. Okay, so now we have build internal tree. I probably need to, yeah, internal tree. So what's the variable for that? Internal tree. So internal, internal tree. Cool. So we have internal tree, and so we want now to build pull get tree. So we're gonna do pull get yeah. So what is get tree? Yeah, so get underscore tree equals pull get tree. Line 76 in request. OS error 202. Line 76. 180. Default branch not found. Ah, this looks to be a modified one. Default branch main not found. Set default branch variable in your default branch. Well, this should be main. Well, let's see what's going on. Okay, get to the bottom of this. Headers equals data JSON loads if tree not in data. Yeah, so headers. Do we have a header? No, yeah, headers equals. Okay, we're gonna. Don't know why I'm typing this, but I feel like it. The So the reason why we have to have a header is that GitHub API requires you to have a user agent so it can track who's messing around with its API. So it's kind of funny is that I show up in the log files for anyone that doesn't change this value. So I wanted it to put like, open muscle or whatever, but I might change that in the future. But you can kind of plug whomever in a very weird way because the information is out there somewhere. Headers equals this, so if length of token is greater than 0. Oh, okay. R equals u requests dot get tree underscore URL headers equals headers. Tree URL isn't defined. Oh, So tree URL equals call trees. And then we can run this. U requests get tree URL. So tree URL. Okay. Headers. It's just a single item. Tree URL. You get test get trees main recursive one. So I'm gonna do. Okay, I'm not gonna copy this. So if we go to this URL, this is what we get, which looks nice. But why is uRequest not liking that? Inside of uRequest, 76 in requests. In request. So R equals uRequests get tree URL headers. So what is u requests dot get okay. So R equals u requests dot get HTTP. What is that URL? Let's just do s google.com. And it has, doesn't it have two u requests get tree headers equals headers? Huh. Well, I'm going to type this into ChatGPT. Maybe that will help. It's what's nice is that I always interact. Might as well ask ChatGPT. I am programming this Python code for this repository. Colon. This is the error when I run R equals
Yo-Yo-Kwan.
requests.
Welcome to my channel.
HTTPS google.com. Welcome. And here is the output, and then I need to copy my repository. And I'm using ChatGPT with what do you call it? Web searching. OS error 202 is a Micropython specific error code, and it often occurs when there's a problem establishing a network connection. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's because the Wi-Fi hotspot was turned off. Well, that's helpful. Okay. So I'm going to run this code again. Okay, so we're going to build internal tree, build internal tree. Why are you not checking if there's a release, then zip? A release of what? Build internal tree. Okay, so internal tree should be that value. Okay, so now we are going to pull the get tree. So get tree will equal pull get smiley face get tree. Oh, but first, yeah, tree URL equals call trees URL. Raw equals raw. Raw equals raw. This is gonna error. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was looking at the top. S equals headers. Headers equals headers. Yep, headers isn't defined, so I'm gonna copy and paste that. New code to be run on the device. Why not checking if there's a release then zip? Yeah, yeah. So I don't know how to check if there's a new release through the GitHub API. So my thought was instead of looking at that, I didn't know if I had access to it. I'm looking for the hash of the files. Do you know how to do an API call through the URL to see if there's an update? Because that would be easier. Quite a bit easier, actually. Um, but let me see here. So get tree. So yeah, headers, paste. Nope. I gotta copy headers. There we go. Wait, what am I doing here? Wrong line. Okay, and then tree underscore URL equals call trees URL. Awesome, so I should be able to go up to this one. Unexpected keyword argument headers. So tree URL already equals this. Headers. Yeah, I don't know why I was doing that twice. Yep, that's my bad. So now get tree will equal pull get tree. So let's look at get tree. And it has the get tree now. Awesome. So we've pulled the SHA hash, and this is just a JSON value for the the GitHub tree. Now, someone was saying that the hash, so get tree, what am I looking for? Tree. Yeah, what is this again? Get tree. Can't you specify? No, you don't. Yeah, it doesn't want me to. What key am I looking for? So the overarching key is tree. This is how bad I am. So it's the first one. Get tree. Is it just tree? That's why. Dict object. Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm being schooled right now in syntax. So let's see if GitHub, or sorry, ChatGPT can help me. Typically occurs when you're using dictionary, the type of data and start. So yeah. So this is get tree, and why is this erroring? In this case, it looks like you're trying to call get tree is a dictionary. Oh, it's in the normal brackets. Get tree. This is what I didn't memorize. Okay, there we go. I thought I was going crazy for a second, but I forgot it wasn't curly brackets when using this style. I usually just use arrays in Python because I don't care to name things. I think it's inefficient. So I try to just have it be either an array or matrix. So tree, and we have this value. So we want tree, and then the next object inside of it is path. tree, is that 0? Is that indexed? Yeah, it is indexed. Okay. So we're tree 0, and then we can do SHA would be the first, um, it would be the first hash. Awesome. And what is it for the layer? First one, but we also want folder. Oh, that's just for a folder. Okay. Folder subfolder name type tree. Let's look at boot. Which one is boot? Path for I and get tree tree print I. Okay, at least now. Okay, folder. So third layer dot py and second readme boot. So boot is the last one. So we are going to do -1. So this is boot. Okay. And boot.py is there we go. Internal tree -2. Yeah. Okay. So these are off, but someone told me that if you redo the hash, that you actually just have to get rid of the first 2 bytes on the internal tree. Now, how on earth am I going to find that? Is another question. I thought that was on GitHub. Yes, this one right here. Off topic, but new. Ben mentioned very nice project. I tried using this, but I'm struggling. Maybe it helps to go on this point. So the U hash library, they do match. It's just the Git protocol has you prefixing the data before hashing. There we go. Okay, I gotta pull that code off to the side. Okay. They do match, just the Git protocol has you prefixing the data before hashing. See GitHub line 2. For most, that winds up being blob something where n is the number of bytes as a string. Okay. But if Yo-Yoke is right, you should be able to just see if there's a new version as opposed to using the hash. Although the hash function would be kind of nice. So they do match, just the Git protocol has you prefixing the data before hashing. the Git protocol makes you prefix it. So how do they solve this? Kind, what is kind? Base object reader, SHA-1, update if kind equals, okay. Kind equals 3, hash dot update b of blob. H update self size dot encode, H update with that, while data H update digest H, huh, that is crazy. That's crazy cool. So that should be in pull internal tree, add to tree, global internal tree, OS change directory, list, add them to the tree, internal tree, add to tree. If is directory, then length, OS change directory for I and list directory, add to tree. Print get working path, subpath. Get hash. Hash file, print file, O file. So yeah, so we would have to modify the hash here. Sorry. Yes, this example is by tags, but if you do releases, you'll have release. That is a better way of doing things. I think that is what I should be doing. API release info of repository. New code. Yes, this is an example. This example is by tags. Okay, so that's what it's looking for is tags. Update list a release asset. Get release by tag name. So get a release. This returns an upload URL key respond endpoint uploading release assets. This key is hypermedia resource. Because what I want to do then to a zip file. Because what I want to do is just somehow store whatever release the last YouGet or the last over-the-air update happened, and then if we can just do a simple check, if the release is of a greater number numerically than the what we have on the board, then do the update. So update a release, get a release. I just want to see the status. So yeah, this example to zip file. I'm not zipping anything on this repository. You're probably not asking that, but this is just pulling the files from GitHub onto the board. But there is no check to see if it needs to do this. But I am backing up the information into a line by line item, which is not the best thing to do in a microcontroller's memory, but I just wanted to make sure that I didn't ruin someone's day by erasing their code, which it probably still happened. Someone probably tried this, and it has the potential to do that if you mess up. But I did put warnings on the GitHub page, did I? There should be make sure to back up your code before trying YouGet. Yeah, there we go. Oh, you can't see that because of the overlay. Make sure to back up your code before trying YouGet. But I did make this logo. I thought it was kind of cool. So yeah. I might. They are looking at kind. They're digesting it, so they're reading it afterwards and updating it. So they're adding this H update. Interesting. And since you can just add this to the variable hash library SHA-1, I don't know if mine will allow me to do that. Well, I might take a pause for today because I'm going to do some research on different API calls to GitHub and hopefully get a kind of game plan going. I really appreciate your feedback, Yo-Yoke. That was actually a really good idea, and that would save me some time. It would be good to be able to do the internal hashing function just for myself, so that way I can learn and be a better programmer. I'm not a programmer necessarily. I enjoy it. I enjoy Micropython, but I'm gonna get to it. I just wanted to share a little bit of what some of the stuff is that I work on for fun. So I hope you guys do well, and let's see if we can